Good day, class. I am Hazel Aragachuelo and I will be your teacher for today's lesson. So, our lesson will be all about analyzing a short story through formalist approach. As for our objectives, at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to first analyze a short story using formalist approach. Second is to determine the elements of a short story. And lastly is to critique an English American literature short story using formalist approach. Okay, as an opener, I know that all of you here have already read the short story. Can anyone share their favorite short story is? And what makes it as your favorite? Or what reason do you have in considering it as your favorite? Okay, thank you class for sharing and further explaining why you chose it as your favorite short story. Alright, based from your answers, what makes up a story? And what criteria did you consider to decide it as your favorite one? Yes, correct. It's the elements of the story that makes up a story. Okay, for the last question before we actually start our lesson. With your responses, do you have any idea on what kind of approach did you use in analyzing the short story? By identifying its elements such as the characters, setting, plot, and etc.? Okay, none. If you don't know the answer, let's find out. Formalist approach. Formalist approach is about examining the form of the work as a whole, the form of each individual, the part of the text, the characters, the settings, the point of view, symbols, and themes. Okay, so everyone, listen. I'm very much assured that you already have an idea on what these characters, settings, and others are, right? Yes, they are the elements of a story, wherein these are the ones that makes up the story by the author or the writer, forming relationships and links between them to create a literary piece or any literary work, such as poems, novels, short stories, etc. So, formalism is also known as a preference to form linguistic elements as literary devices rather than the sidelining factors such as authorial intent in the cultural socio-political background or a text from its study. Another thing is that formalist approach is not just about analyzing what are the elements of the short story, but more about how these elements makes up the story. What are the relationships and what role they are playing in the story. That was why formalism requires readers to have a close reading on the text. This is for them to analyze the elements of the story and determine their connection from one another, their relationships, their links. So, to better understand how can we analyze a literary text or a literary piece through using the formalist approach, here is the summary of a short story of Hills Like White Elephants. This is a summary of Hills Like White Elephants written by Ernest Hemingway. Hills Like White Elephants opens with a long description of the story setting in a train station surrounded by hills, fields, and trees in a valley in Spain. A man known simply as American and his girlfriend sit at a table outside the station, waiting for a train to Madrid. It is hot, and the man orders 2 beers. The girl remarks that the nearby hills look like white elephants, to which the American responds that he's never seen one. They order more drinks and begin to bicker about the taste of the alcohol. The American chastises her and says that they should try to enjoy themselves. The girl replies that she's merely having fun, and then retracts her earlier comment by saying the hills don't actually look like white elephants to her anymore. They order more drinks, and the American mentions that he wants the girl, whom he calls Jig, to have an operation. Although he was never actually specifies what kind of operation. He seems agitated and tries to downplay the operation's seriousness. He argues that the operation would be simple, for example, but then says the procedure really isn't even an operation at all. The girl says nothing for a while, but then she asks what will happen after she's had the operation. The man answers that things will be fine afterward, just like they were before, and that it will fix their problems. He has known a lot of people who have had the operation and found happiness afterward. The girl dispassionately agrees with him. The American then claims that he won't force her to have the operation, but thinks it the best course of action to take. She tells him that she will have the operation as long as he'll still love her and they'll be able to live happily together afterward. The man then emphasizes how much he cares for the girl, but she claims not to care about what happens to herself. The American weakly says that she shouldn't have the operation if that's really the way she feels. The girl then walks over to the end of the station, looks at the scenery, and wonders aloud whether they really could be happy if she has the operation. They argue for a while until the girl gets tired and makes the American promise to stop talking. The Spanish bartender brings two more beers and tells them that the train is coming in about 5 minutes. The girl smiles at the bartender or the waitress but has to ask the American what she said because the girl doesn't speak Spanish. After finishing their drinks, the American carries their bags to the platform and then walks back to the bar, noticing all the other people who are also waiting for the train. He asks the girl whether she feels better. She says she's fine. She feels fine and that there's nothing wrong with her. Okay, so that's the end of the summary of the short story entitled as The Hills Like White Elephants. Okay, so before we proceed on analyzing or identifying the elements of the short story using the formalist approach, we should answer this activity first. Direction is kindly raise your hands if you know what is being stated. Okay, number 1. This refers to a person, animal, being, creature, or thing in the story. They perform the actions and speak dialogue, moving the story along a plotline. Okay. If your answer is characters, you are correct. Next is this is what character or the narrator is telling the story can see. Yes, that's correct. That is the pub or the point of view. The third one is it is the time and place of the story. Excellent. You are right again. It is the setting. Okay, so number 4. It is the central idea, topic, or point of a story. Yes, it is the theme. Very good. And lastly, these are any image or thing that stands for something else. Yes, they are the symbols, the representation of something. Very good. Now that we're done answering the activity number 2, let's now move on answering the questions that you are asked to before I started reading the summary of the story Hills Like White Elephants. So, the story was all about the couple, the American man and the girl Jig, whose relationship were nearing the edge if they didn't discuss the problem or the source of the rift of their seemingly bad relationship. Based from the girl's sentiments, sarcastic, and irritableness. Here are some questions for you. So, what do you think is the point of view used in the short story? If your answer that it is narrated in the third point of view, then you are correct. Very good. How about the setting? Okay, that's correct. It was at the station, the train station that was surrounded by hills, fields, and trees in Bali in Spain. Next, who are the characters in the story? How many are them? If you answered 2, you are wrong. There was actually 3 characters in the story. The American man, the girl, Jig, and the waitress. The one who brought the drinks for the 2 main characters. How about the symbols used in the short story? Okay, none. So I'll give you clues. Think about the title itself. Heels like white elephants. Think about its image. What do you see? Excellent. It was like a pregnant woman when you see it vertically. So, but it's not what Heels Like White Elephant is all about. There is some defined meaning or a representation of white elephants. A white elephant symbolizes something no one wants. In the story of Hills Like White Elephants, the girl's aborted child is the white elephant. Anyway, has anyone got any clue what the sudden topic about operation was all about before it was revealed? Yes, exactly. It is the abortion that the American man and the girl Jake were talking about. Now, what do you think was the central idea of the short story? Its theme. Okay, very good. Any answer? Yes, that's correct too. Your answers were all correct. The story's theme is all about choices and consequences, doubt and ambiguity, and men and women. Okay, so for the analysis, I will divide learners into 2 groups, then ask them how the elements of the story help in creating this literary piece. This will further enhance their understanding and analysis of the short story using the formalist approach. This will also allow the learners to have interaction with their group mates for about 15 minutes and encourage them to actively participate in the discussion later in the class of their answers. Okay, if you would like to test your understanding of the short story of Hills Like White Elephants, here are some statements, and you are gonna tell them if they are true or false. Okay? For the valuing part, there are three questions here, and you need to reflect on them. Okay? So the first one is, what do you think was the emotion of Jake or the girl when she said, "Would you please stop talking to the American?" Next, what do you think was Jake's decision regarding her pregnancy? Or to be precise, her unwanted pregnancy. And lastly, the third number, do you think the American helped Jake when he said the procedure was simple and safe? Why do you think so? For your evaluation, in not more than 2 paragraphs, explain what is the significance of the elements of a short story in any literary text. And for your assignment, you can read any short story from English American literature and analyze it through formalist lens. That would be all for my video lesson. I hope you learned something. Thank you for listening and God bless us all.